have you ever created a game plan, something that you wanted to do, something that you had been meaning to do? Maybe you had a game plan or something that you envisioned for yourself as far as what your marriage was going to look like or what your relationship was going to look like. Or maybe you came up with a game plan on how you were going to build a multiple six-figure business. Or maybe you sat down and you got excited and you came up with a game plan on writing this book and becoming a best-selling author. Or I don't know what that thing is for you, but maybe perhaps, like me, you at one point or another have sort of sat through and thought about an experience or thought about a game plan, thought about something that you wanted to happen. And then you started trying to make it happen. And what you discovered is that it was a little more difficult than you thought it would be. Well, what you discovered is that you were encountering a little bit of frustration. What you discovered is that the way you mapped it out in your mind was not quite how things began to work out. And so what happens is, unfortunately, we begin to go through a moment of frustration. And the reason why is because we're encountering some turbulence. We're encountering some volatility, where we're having some things happen that we didn't quite anticipate. But here's what I've discovered, and here's what I've come to realize, that oftentimes some of your best experiences and some of the most amazing things that you will accomplish in your life will start off in the midst of some turbulence. I need you to get that. You see, some of the most amazing things that you're going to do, some of your greatest accomplishments that you're ever going to do, is going to start off with some serious turbulence. And so the question is going to be really, what are you going to do in the midst of the turbulence? And are you going to abandon your game plan? Are you going to abandon your flight? Are you going to abandon the course that you've set out for yourself because of the turbulence? And so the reason why I'm sharing this with you, as some of you know, we're just sort of coming off of the Valentine weekend. And so I to my surprise, I opened up the mailbox and I received a card from one of my good friends, and him and his wife decided that they wanted to go ahead and send us this amazing gift. And what they did is they purchased us a private VIP tour on a private small airplane. And so, of course, we open it up. We call them up. We're excited. We can't believe it. And my wife is the kind of person, she takes immediate action. So right away, she booked the appointment. She got us on this tour for Valentine's Day weekend. And so we're pulling up to one of these little private, smaller airports, and we pull up to the airport, and we meet the pilot that is going to be taking us on this flight, and we start walking out on the runway, and we see this little airplane. I mean, this airplane is literally just a couple of feet bigger and longer than my truck is. As a matter of fact, the interior of my truck is bigger than this airplane. And so, me and my wife are already starting to give each other that side eye, right? We're looking at each other like, honey, without even saying a word, we're looking at each other like, you sure you want to do this? Like, that is a small plane. And so, but at the same time, we're a little excited because we're hearing about the amazing tour, how we're going to be able to see things from an angle that we wouldn't believe. And so the pilot walks us up to the car and he opens up the door. And I'm telling you, there's literally 4 seats in this plane. Where the pilot sits, the co-pilot, we had no co-pilot, and 2 little seats in the back. So we managed to get back there in the back, and I'm telling you, it is so tight back there. We literally have to sit at an angle because our knees are pushing up against the seats in front of us. And so we're already starting, the fear is starting to kick in, right? And we're starting to think to ourselves, you know what? I've been on planes and I don't experience any anxiety on planes. I'm blessed and fortunate enough for that. But this is a tiny plane. And so we start going out on the runway. And now we're waiting for our turn to sort of go down this runway. And so we get clearance to go. And so this little plane with its propeller starts taking off. And the moment we leave the ground, I'm talking about some serious turbulence. I mean, it feels as if we're just like dipping up and down and dipping. And it's that feeling when your heart sort of goes from your chest area and it goes up to your throat and then it sort of falls back down. And so I remember like feeling this turbulence and it being very unnerving. And I remember looking over at my wife to just sort of see if she was okay. And I look over and I mean, her eyes are shut tight and she is literally praying. And the way she's praying, the level of conviction in which she's praying, you would think as if she knows that this is literally her last moment, right? And so I'm trying to act calm and I'm looking over at her. She's praying like crazy and the plane has got this turbulence and so forth. And so I'm sitting there and I'm trying to act, calm and relaxed. And now I'm starting to feel as if I'm getting a little faint hearted and I'm losing circulation. And I originally thought it was because of the plane, but what I realized is that my wife, she was squeezing my hand so tight. She literally was like stopping the circulation going into my arm. So thank God it had nothing to do with the plane, but you can imagine this turbulence, the turbulence. And so we are at this point, we have left the ground. And at this point, there's not many options. Sure, you could try to jump out of the plane, but I could assure you we didn't have parachutes, so that was not going to go over well. And so, one of the things the pilot advised, he said, try to focus and look outside of the window. It's going to help you to deal with the turbulence and help you with the nausea. And just when we're sort of trying to get used to this turbulence, just when we're thinking that, we can't wait for this flight to end, we get to this cruise control. Yeah. All this turbulence, all this chaos, all this fear, all this things that we're experiencing. Now all of a sudden we're in the air. Now all of a sudden we're sailing. Now all of a sudden there's no more turbulence. Now we're beginning to look out the window and we're seeing some of the most amazing views that we've ever seen. I mean, we're looking out at the beaches that we have been down there in the sand and in the water, but now we're looking at many of the places that we've seen from a completely different perspective. I mean, we are cruising along the shoreline. I mean, the water is crystal blue and it's brushing up against the sand, and we're looking over to the left. It's nothing but blue ocean. We look over to the right and we're seeing some of the hotels that we've even stayed at, hotels that we've spoken at, but we're looking at everything from a different perspective. The view is absolutely beautiful. We go further down and I mean, we're seeing places that we've been, but we're seeing it from a completely different perspective. I mean, things got so good. The view was so nice. It was such an amazing experience. But let me just tell you, it started off with a lot of turbulence. And so I don't know where you're experiencing some turbulence in your life right now. Maybe you just landed a big contract and you're so excited and you had a game plan how things were going to work out. And now that you've gotten into it, you're realizing that it's a little more complicated, a little more involved than what you thought. Or maybe you had this game plan on how you're going to go ahead and grow your direct sales company and all the people you're going to bring into the business and how you're going to hit the next position. And now that you're trying to do it, you're experiencing some turbulence. People are not returning your phone calls. People are telling you no. Your business partners are quitting as fast as you're bringing them in. Maybe you're experiencing some turbulence. You walk down this aisle and you look this person in the eye and you said, for better or for worse, until death do us part. And now you're realizing that you're beginning to drift apart. And so you're experiencing some turbulence. I don't know where in your life you're experiencing turbulence right now, but here's what I do know. That some of the most amazing experiences in your life, some of the greatest accomplishments that you are ever going to have is going to begin and is going to be in the middle and is going to have to endure some turbulence. And so if maybe right now you're sort of on this route and you're trying to make this thing happen and you're going through this turbulence and you're thinking about turning back around, you're thinking about landing the plane of your dreams, you're thinking about landing the plane of your relationship, you're thinking about landing the plane of these things that you've been looking to accomplish, I just want to remind you is if you can endure the turbulence, If you can just make it through this moment. As a matter of fact, I remember my good friend Star Babatune, one of her favorite quotes that she talks about is that life is it's not about waiting for the storm to pass, but no, it's about learning how to dance in the rain, learning how to dance in the middle of the storm, learning how to stay focused and think about the destination and commit to the destination even in the midst of the turbulence. And so what I want to remind you is that whatever it is that you're doing right now, that it's worth it. It's worth it for you right now to deal with whatever turbulence you're having to deal with in the process of writing your book. It's worth it for you right now to deal with whatever turbulence that you have to in order to be able to have a marriage that beats the odds of all the people who are getting divorced. You know, it's worth it for you to endure this turbulence that you're experiencing right now, to be able to develop a business and be able to live out your passion in a lifestyle that allows you to do what you want to do when you want to do it. It's worth it for you to deal with this turbulence, for you to be able to fulfill the calling that's been placed on your life and to do that thing that you've been called to do, that you've got to be willing to endure the turbulence. You've got to be willing to go through this, because here's what I can tell you. Rest assured on this, it hasn't come to stay. It has come to pass. That whatever it is that you're experiencing is just something that you have to go through in the process of whatever you're going to. I'm going to say that one more time. It's just something that you have to go through in the process of whatever it is that you're going to. And so we've got to learn to deal with the turbulence. And so you can deal with this. Let me tell you, we were scared on that plane, okay? Let me tell you, my wife was over there saying prayers, okay? But let me tell you, there came a point where we got real comfortable. We got relaxed. Next thing you know, we're talking to each other on our little headphones, and then we're taking little selfies in the air, and we're taking pictures, and we're leaning over in our seat because we start to get comfortable. And see, what happens is if you can make it through this turbulence, you'll get a point where all of a sudden now, you begin to shift. All of a sudden, you begin to appreciate what it is that you're working on. You begin to appreciate your gift that you have. You begin to appreciate this business that you're building. You begin to appreciate these opportunities that are opening up for you. You begin to appreciate all the time, the effort, and the energy that you've created. But you've got to be willing to endure the initial turbulence. And so once again, I don't know what turbulence you're dealing with right now. But I know you have to go through it in order for you to get to whatever it is that you're trying to get to. Now, here's something else that I discovered, and this was really, really cool. And but it's one of these things that really applies to life. And so we're up in the air now. I mean, we're looking at these most amazing views. We're looking at the ocean. We're looking at some of the most amazing hotels that we've seen at ground level. But I mean, these things are just amazing when you're looking at them at the altitude in which we were flying, and now we're down in Miami area, and we're flying over a very famous tennis court where Serena Williams and Venus Williams, where they play, and from the sky, you see these tennis courts. They're beautiful. They're so well painted, and they've got the seaquarium, and we're flying over the seaquarium, and at the seaquarium they actually have these large whales in these large pools, I guess you would say, and also dolphins. And so the pilot is pointing out to us, he's saying, look, I'm going to be able to show you right here the whales and the dolphins. And so he wants us to get a little better view so he starts making this little sharp turn in the air. And literally, I'm telling you this, never got to do this. You don't get to do this much on a commercial airplane, but we did a donut in the air. We literally did a sharp turn in the air. But here's what happened. In the process of us doing the sharp turn, all of a sudden, boom, we hit some turbulence again. And I couldn't understand, because I was like, wait a second. I felt as if the turbulence was gone. We hit the turbulence, and the pilot smirked. And I said, well, what was that? And he says, you know what? He says, here's what happened. He says, we actually went into our own turbulence. I said, well, how did that happen? He said, well, what's happening is we're traveling through the air. And so what we're doing is we're changing the wind currents. And because we did a complete 360 and we went around in the circle, we caught up with the disruption that we created in the air. And so we created our own turbulence. Wow. And so here's what I discovered. You see, when you're on your journey and you're trying to get to whatever your destination is, that even when you get into a place where you are sort of feeling like you're starting to get in the groove of things, that it's possible for you to start creating your own turbulence. And part of the reason why we created our own turbulence is because we revisited some place that we had just left. And you see, what happens is you can create your own turbulence when you begin to revisit your past, when you begin to revisit places that you just left. And so some of us right now, we're reoccurring, we're actually creating our own turbulence. Why? Because we're revisiting what happened to us 2 years ago. We're revisiting something that somebody said. We're revisiting something that upset us, something from our past. But here's what I've discovered, and here's what I've come to know, that when you are moving forward and when you're trying to get forward, that one of the things you don't want to do is just continue to be revisiting your past, because when you do that, what you're actually doing is you are creating your own turbulence. As a matter of fact, write this down. Stop consulting your past about your future. Write that down. Stop consulting your past about your future. You see, your past will remind you about what didn't go right. Your past will remind you of who betrayed you. Your past will remind you about how you lost money in the stock market. Your past will remind you about how you lost money with that investment. Your past will remind you about how you tried something out and it didn't work. Your past will remind you about how you had some people that were in your business that all of a sudden decided to stop. And when you begin to revisit your past, when you find yourself going in a circle when you should really be going forward and trying to get to your destination, you start creating your own turbulence. And so, I don't know, maybe at some point or another you have revisited something from your past and you've created some of your own turbulence. I think about, it was a time that I co-signed on a student loan for somebody. It wasn't a student loan for me, it was a student loan for somebody else, and I co-signed. And it was with the understanding that, once this person was, out and working, that they would make, their portion of the student loan payments, and unfortunately this person didn't fully honor their commitment. And so what would happen is, naturally, because I wanted to preserve my credit score and because that my name was now on this loan, and so naturally every single month, I would go ahead and have to cut a check for this student loan. And so what would happen is, at the beginning of every single month, when I needed to go ahead and write this check, I would go ahead and revisit all the same negative emotions that I experienced. And I would be thinking about, like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this person. Here I am. I was trying to help this person out, and I co-signed on this student loan. And this person told me they were going to do something, and so they didn't honor their commitment. And so now I'm having to pay for funds that they utilize, and oh my goodness, this isn't fair. And every single month I got myself frustrated. Every single month I allowed myself to get angry. Every single month I was creating my own turbulence. And so I don't know, maybe you at one point or another have been going in a circle and taking yourself through an emotional roller coaster. You're making some headway, and then you decided to revisit your past. You decided to go and you caught up with something from your past, and because you started going back into something from your past, what it's done is it's actually created some turbulence in your life. And so what I need you to do is, first of all, acknowledge the fact that you can, in fact, create your own turbulence. I didn't know that. I know that planes try to avoid, flying into, the windshield and wind gusts of another plane. That's why they make sure that when the planes are departing, that they make sure there's some distance, because if one plane takes off right after the other plane, there's not enough distance. The air has shifted so much from the previous plane that the first plane would not be affected because the wind is behind them, but the plane that's flying into it would be affected. And so we're we're in this little plane that has the ability to go around in a circle. And so we came back around to the very air that we disrupted. And many of us, we do that emotionally. We come back around to a situation that disrupts us emotionally, and we create our own turbulence. And so it's difficult to enjoy the process. It's difficult to enjoy the ride. It's difficult to embrace the process when you're creating your own turbulence. And so I don't know what that looks like for you. Maybe it's somebody who has really hurt you in the past, somebody who told you that they love you and that they would never betray you, and they did. I don't know. Maybe it's some people that you've poured into that are part of your business that you thought were going to be around to help you to continue to grow your business, and they bailed out. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's a company that you had worked for all these years, and you put in your time, your effort, your energy. You showed up on time. You did everything that was required of you, and they told you that, you know what, your services are no longer needed, and they laid you off. I don't know what that thing is that if you revisit it, it's going to cause some turbulence in your life. But here's what I can tell you: you could do without it. That you don't have to create your own turbulence. And the way we do that is we want to make sure that we're not going around and revisiting old things from the past. And so let me remind you that you want to stop consulting your past about your future. You see, your past is your past. Those things have already happened. We learn from those experiences. We grow from those experiences. But we don't want to ride right back into those experiences. No. And so stop revisiting your past, because your past is going to keep you thinking small. Your past is going to have you think about, hey, don't do that, because remember what happened last time. Don't go on another date. Remember what happened with the last person. Don't start that business. Remember what happened last time. Don't take a risk. Don't take a chance, because remember what happened last time. Your past is designed to keep you safe. But that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to soar. We're trying to get to the destination. We're trying to enjoy the view. We're trying to fulfill our calling. And when you are trying to do that, you have to stop revisiting your past, because it only causes additional turbulence. And so it's time to just keep moving forward. Yeah, it's time to start enjoying the view. And boy, did we enjoy the view on that flight. Let me tell you, it was quite a view. And here's the last thing that I learned, that I discovered. We're up there in the plane, and we're in the sky, and now I've gotten a little more comfortable when we're dealing with the turbulence. It's still unnerving. Let me just tell you, it still made me very much uncomfortable. But what happened is I discovered that I got a little more comfortable with being uncomfortable. And you've heard me say that before, that sometimes in life you've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. But so now I'm beginning to observe, and one of the things I begin to observe is that every time we are encountering some turbulence, I right away, because the pilot's literally right in front of me. The plane's so small, I literally could just slap the pilot in the back of his head. He's that close to me. Okay, and so I'm sitting right there in the back seat, and I'm seeing the pilot. And every time we are going through some turbulence, what I look over at the pilot, and there's absolutely not even the slightest inclination of worry or anything whatsoever. There are times we're going through turbulence, and I see the pilot, and he is just as calm as can be. There's a couple times I even saw him checking out his nails. This guy was so calm, and I just couldn't understand, why is this guy so calm in the middle of turbulence, until I did some research. And what I discovered is that turbulence is actually not dangerous. Do you hear that? Turbulence is not dangerous. It's only in the most rare, minute circumstances is turbulence actually dangerous. Turbulence, if anything, it's nothing more than a mere annoyance. When you are on a commercial airline, and the commercial airline encounters some turbulence, Trust and believe that when the pilot is up front, they are not concerned about the turbulence. Why? Because they understand it's simply part of the process. Why? Because they understand the laws of aerodynamics. Why? Because they understand that the turbulence is not really affecting the airplane, and nor is the turbulence really affecting the course in which the airplane is going, except by just a few feet, even though that very same turbulence has caused your coffee to tip over, even though that very first turbulence has caused you to grip your seat, even though that turbulence has caused you to hold on to the hand of the person sitting next to you. The only reason why the pilot decides to change altitude, the only reason why the pilot decides to move the airplane at a different altitude, it's only for one reason and one reason only. It's only for the sake of convenience of all of us who are sitting in that commercial airline. And so, in other words, they understand that the turbulence is just simply part of the process. They understand that the turbulence is not really truly any type of true danger there. They understand that the turbulence is just simply one of those things that happens because there's just a shift in the air. And guess what? The plane is designed to be able to deal with whatever turbulence that they're dealing with in the sky. And so nothing is really happening to the plane. The only reason why they shift altitudes is simply for the sake of convenience. And so why do I share that with you? The reason why I share that with you is because I need you to understand that this turbulence that you're experiencing, the turbulence that you believe is possibly endangering your goals and your dreams, the turbulence that you're experiencing that is having you even consider giving up on creating this business, that's having you consider giving up on building this business, that's having you consider actually walking away from your marriage, that's having you consider giving up on your goals and your dreams and the things that you're looking to do. This turbulence that seems so dangerous, this turbulence that is telling you to just land the plane of your dreams down, that turbulence is not dangerous. It's simply part of the process. And it's, if anything, it's nothing more than a false alarm. You know, one of those false alarms, it goes off, and guess what? There's no real danger there. If anything, it's more of an annoyance. It's just annoying to hear that loud noise going off. And so the turbulence that's going on in your life, it's nothing more than an annoyance. It's an annoyance that they didn't call you back after you called them 3, 4, 5 times. It's just an annoyance. It's just a little bit of turbulence when all of a sudden this person, these people that have been in your business and you thought that they were going to stick in there, and you find out that they've quit. Are you calling them up and it seems like they went into the witness protection program? You can't get a hold of them. It is just a little bit of turbulence when you've been working at this job and all of a sudden they walk in and they tell you, hey, listen, we no longer need your services now. It's an annoyance. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but guess what? It's no true danger. Why? Because you've got to be more committed to the destination than you are about getting comfortable and getting to a different altitude. No, what's more important is where you're going. And so whatever it is that you're experiencing right now, it's just a momentary setback. It is just a momentary annoyance. It's annoying. Yes, I know when people don't do what they say they're going to do. It's annoying. Yes, I know when you've committed your time, your effort, and your energy, and some people have decided that they're not going to honor that, and they've decided to let you go. It's annoying. I know when you thought that you were going to knock out your game plan within the first couple of months, and now you're in your 3rd, 4th year, and it seems like you're still struggling and things aren't working it out. It's just turbulence. It's not really true danger. You've got to keep the course. You got to find a way to stay calm. You see, I realize that the reason why the pilots are so calm is really because they understand that the turbulence that they're feeling, the same turbulence that gets us so scared, is really not dangerous at all. That as a matter of fact, that even though things are shifting in the plane and it seems like, something is really significant happened, the plane, as far as the course in which the plane is going, it hasn't really shifted at all. The matter of fact, if you were to measure the shift at the nose of the plane and the direction it's going, it's almost indetectable. The plane is still on its course. And so we experience some turbulence, some things happen. And yes, I know it's frustrating. But what you're not realizing is that there's a bigger plan. There's a bigger destination. There's some place that you're going. And this turbulence right here, it really hasn't endangered the bigger plan. Yeah, it's got you uncomfortable right now. Yeah, it makes you want to quit sometimes. Yeah, it's an annoyance. Yeah, it can make you worry. Yeah, it can get you a little frustrated. But the major plan, the true game plan, the calling and the purpose in your life, that's not in danger. This is just part of the process. This is just something you've got to go through. And so the pilots understand that. And so if we can understand that too, then what we can do is we're able to keep calm. If we can understand that too, then we won't jump out of the airplane of our goals and our dreams. If we can understand that too, then what we could do is we could stay focused on where we're going rather than focus on the current circumstances and the things that are going on right now. And so ultimately, it's really about how you react in the midst of the storm. And so that's why I love it when L.C. Robinson said that things may happen around you. There may be turbulence around you. There may be shifts and change that are going around you. Things may even happen to you. You may become fearful. You may feel frustrated. You may start claiming. You might feel nauseous. You might start holding your breath, and you might start clawing at your seat. And things may happen around you, and things may even happen to you. But the only things that matter are the things that happen in you. And so you've got to be willing to focus and stay focused on where you're going. Whatever you're dealing with right now, it hasn't really endangered. You're not in danger of the major plan. It's just some turbulence right now. It's some turbulence. That's all it is. And you can handle this. In the same way the plane was built for the turbulence, you were built for whatever it is that you're going through right now. That you can handle this. And so I love it. I love it. When we can have just the most simple experiences. And those simple experiences teach us big lessons. And so let me just remind you that some of your best experiences and most amazing things that you're going to accomplish are going to begin with some serious turbulence. And so you've got to be willing to sort of ride that out. You got to be willing to sort of deal with that, because you'll eventually get to an altitude in which you can cruise. But even when you get to a cruising altitude, you may incur some additional turbulence. And some of the turbulence that you may incur may even be self-induced. In other words, you can create your own turbulence. If you fly back into your same old story, if you fly back into the same old conversation, stop consulting with your past about your future. Stop doing that. And then not only that, but here's what I also need you to understand, that this turbulence, whatever it is you're experiencing, it's really not dangerous. No, it's simply part of the process. And there's a bigger vision in sight. And it's all about where it is that you're going. And just like the plane, you're built for this turbulence. Yeah. You're going to get to the destination. And when you get back, you're going to be telling people about the view. This is Andy Henriquez, and it wouldn't be even right if I didn't end by telling you this. Show up for your lives, ladies and gentlemen. Because if you don't, no one else will.